2020 meeting of the Coeur d'Alene Parks and Recreation Commission. Melissa, would you call roll, please?
Commissioner Cranston,
Here.
Commissioner McDowell,
Here.
Commissioner Lane,
Here.
Commissioner Tate,
Here.
Commissioner Hill, Commissioner Wood,
Here.
Commissioner Edinger, Commissioner Dretchell.
Okay. Thank you, Melissa. Jim, would you mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight, if everybody would stand? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, do any of the members tonight have a conflict of interest with any of the agenda items tonight?
No. None here.
There are none. First order of business then would be approval of the December 16th, 2019 meeting minutes. Are there any adjustments or corrections?
I move they be approved as presented.
Okay.
A second?
The motion's been made by Commissioner McDowell and seconded by Commissioner Tate to approve the December 16th, 2019 meeting minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. And that brings us to you, Bill. Staff report.
Well, we're still, wow, this is loud. We're still pushing on the memorial grandstands. We ordered the netting that we'll be putting up this week. If the snow gets off the field, we'll start dragging it in preparation of NIC's use. If and when they get back on the field, it should be the end of this month or possibly next month. We said goodbye to Howard Gould today. He was our building maintenance supervisor for the last 15 years. He'll be sorely missed, but we got a new gentleman on board, Adam. Mel, help me say how his last name is again? Coritco. When you look at it, it looks like it may be Asian in its spelling. So, Coritco. Adam's a good guy, so he stepped in and he started working a little bit with Howard last week, and he was in full control today. So he's working hard, and he's got a lot to do, maintaining all of our buildings. And on the recreation side, I'll just let Adam talk about, they're on the agenda, some updates that we're doing rather than in staff comments. He's got a few things he'll talk about. And that's it, other than any questions that I might field from you commissioners.
Okay. Questions? Thank you, Bill. Do any of the commissioners have any comments or announcements? Are there any public comments wish to be directed toward the Park and Rec Commission that aren't part of the agenda tonight? No. Well, Bill, we're moving right along. Our next item is an information item, Kids to Park Day.
Yes, so we've got actually just a couple of items here, a couple of events. One that we're bringing back that we had done last couple of years. We skipped, I think, last year. An event that actually takes place for our, we used to do a week-long spring break activity that we've now condensed into one day on National Kids to Parks Day. And that is so we still call it just Kids to Parks Day. We've got it set up for Saturday, May 16th. We're going to do it at Memorial Park. One of the things that we like to do with this is kind of highlight some of the new areas that are coming online. And if you look over there to the right, it lists some of the activities with some skateboarding. We've got bounce houses, pickleball, futsal, archery. A lot of those activities are actually utilizing groups that we use throughout the year to do certain activities, some of them being some of our sponsors that sponsor some of our youth programs that are giving back. It's all free. They come and they donate their time and services. So it's a pretty good, it's a pretty cool activity. Last time we did it out here, we had, I think we estimated somewhere around 500 kids that showed up. So this one will be interesting because that memorial area is a little more condensed than what this is, but something that we're looking forward to. So it's just a really, really cool event to give back to the community, so.
Commissioners, any questions about what Adam's proposing here?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Adam, this, is there a contingency plan in case we have to cancel, just like anything else, we just cancel?
So
Go ahead.
right now, no, being that it's that far out, and with like a lot of our stuff that we're running in the schools and things like that where, you know, we're out until mid-April, I think would probably be the time that we would really reevaluate that. So we'll communicate that when we're putting out all of these blasts that kind of, you know, keep tabs on our website for any updates if it has to be pushed back or if it gets canceled or something like that. But right now, being that we're still, 2 months out, we're just hoping that
Well,
it's.
this has to be a very popular event. I mean, parents and kids, you would think, would just love it. So I'm glad that you're working on it. Good job.
Go ahead, Adam.
Okay, so this one is brand new. This is something that actually one of our staff members, Jordan Anderson, they did when he was an intern in Tahoe years ago as a community yard sale. So what we'd like to do, and the plan, again, would be, you know, we may end up having to move it, but to do it May 9th, so the weekend before our Kids' Day. Charging $15 for I know it says a 15 by 15 booth. Basically, we would be wanting to take up this space down here in front of City Hall. The parking lot, the parking lot right in front of City Hall. 15 by 15 booth works out to roughly 2 parking spaces. No businesses or vendors, so it would be homeowners, but they would sign up through us at our office. It's $15, which will basically just kind of help cover some staff time to have people down there to help direct people, get it set up. And then they can come down, we'll set up an hour before, and then close it down to vehicles, and then allow walking traffic, I think, starting at 10 o'clock is what we were looking at. But kind of a brand new thing, so we just we wanted to try it out if it's successful. What we had talked about, and I had talked about with Bill, is the possibility of doing like a spring and a fall one, which are usually pretty big times. So we're just looking at some new events that are different from things that we've done in the past, that also are more community-based, I guess a broader community-based, so.
Okay. Anything for Adam?
Good luck.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, moving on, I guess, huh, Bill? Our next item is another information item and an update on Atlas Park, and I believe Phil Boyd from Welsh Comer is here to give us an update.
Thank you, Chairman Cranston and Commissioners. Oops, wrong thing. Okay, I will, glad, if it's okay with you, Chairman Cranston, to take questions as I go.
Sure.
So one of the things I wanted to point out, and I think the commission is aware of this, this was, oh, I don't know, probably 80% through the project, and we had always kind of shown these areas up here as indeterminate because of the unsuitable soils that were underneath them. Particularly this area, we had a vision for a nature park up there because we didn't find much to do with it. Couldn't find much to do with it. As we did more exploratory excavations up there and learned more and more of the area, we anticipate that we can put something up there. This one shows a housing option up there. You can still see that the northeast corner where the unsuitable soils are very deep it's just not economical to remediate that area. So there's still a bit of a park area up in there, but this was an evolution. And I think as everyone remembers, a big component of this is financially driven to obviously pay for the park improvements, pay for the land, and reimburse the city for the wastewater fund. So as we move through the project, this was kind of a natural evolution of it, but I just wanted to make sure the commissioners were aware that it changed from that to that. And again, it may evolve from this as well as we learn more and more. And you've probably seen there's a lot of soil movement up in this area. So project progress, what has been completed? The mass grading, the big, moved about 75, 80,000 yards worth of material out there. The sewer, the storm, the water lines are for the most part, and the wastewater lines, the ADA swim access is in. Upcoming work, I'll show you some progress photos where the buildings, the irrigation system are starting to get underway. The Riverstone connection, landscaping retaining walls, which are the non-shoreline stabilization work, water access steps, and the dog park. So you guys might have seen this photo. I've probably shown you this before, but this is what it used to look like. And this is a progress photo. So kind of the before. You can see that there's a fair number of trees that have been removed in the area, which we anticipated. There were some more that had to be removed during the process as we got in there. And we walked all these with Bill and looked at them. We ended up removing some more in this area. We're also going to be putting quite a few trees back. There's several trees in this area that I do need to give the contractor credit that we really wanted to save. And we've saved them down in here. Bill's not so certain that we're going to be able to keep them and to survive because some of the roots are exposed on the waterward side. But we're working hard to try to keep them. You can see in this area here, this is some of the rockery wall stockpile. And a big portion of the rockery wall has been constructed, and these will actually end up being some of the landscape walls for the landscape retaining walls in the area. Down here you can see La Riviere has their screen, and we're actually using that on some on-site material to screen for the beach area. I'll show you a picture of that before, or a little bit later here. This is a photograph looking east, and this was back in December. And you can kind of see how it was taking shape in here. You can see in this photos back in here, we were mining topsoil out of this area. And this is what it looked like actually today. We actually flew it today. And you can see this is the storage building, Bill's maintenance and storage building here. And you can kind of see right there, that's where the picnic shelter and restroom is underway. This area down in here is the commercial parcel. And I'll zip back here so just to orient everybody. It's that little parcel right there that's adjacent to the park and near the waterfront. It doesn't front the water because remember the public space fronts all of the water. But that's that area where there's a commercial area. You can see them in there working soil into that area. This is a big swell area there's still some fill work to be done in there, but you can get an idea of the amount of trees that we were able to save in that area. This is, again, looking a little zoomed in on the beach area here. This material was mined out of here, actually hauled up to the stockpile area up above, and this is what it looks like now. And we've hauled in suitably stable beach material. And when I call it suitably stable, that means our hydrodynamic analysis of river flows dictated a certain size of material, but when you go out there and you look at it, you're going to say, that doesn't seem like a beach to me, because it's not really, it's bigger than kind of typical material. We're currently evaluating using that material I showed you earlier, screening it and putting it in this area as well in here. This is the accessible swim area, the launch, if you happen to be in a wheelchair or need assistance getting into the water, you can access it that way. I'll show you a picture of that. And this is the bulkhead, the landing for the accessible kayak launch. And so there's a trail that comes up like this and gets you back. The end of the parking lot is actually right here. And the reason it's so close to the water is obviously improving ADA accessibility. You can park very close, get off and go down there. What you see in the background here where the excavator is and that filter fabric, there's a big retaining wall that goes through there because this is a trail connection up to the Prairie Trail. And then there's another one out here in the distance that you can see that's just starting to take shape up there. The dog park is up in that area, and you can just barely see the foundations are formed up for the retaining walls that form a seat wall for the dog park. I throw that picture in just to contrast it with that, because this is what it used to look like in that area, and this is what it looks like now. This is the material I was mentioning earlier in the beach area. The trail, so now we're looking west here. You can see the excavators in the background finishing up the wall. The ordinary high water mark sits about in this area right here. And Bill and I were out there one day looking at this and contemplating the magnitude of the beach and how there was such a big area in there. And we started brainstorming and contemplating if it would be nice to soften this area with some green space. And so we're currently in the process of working through some scenarios, if it fits within the budget, our current budget, to add some green space in here. The trail runs along here, and there's picnic areas in that area where there's a picnic table and some hardscape.
Phil, when you say green areas, you're speaking about turf grass coming and transitioning to,
Yes, yeah,
to
so
beach.
it was, when we were out there, you saw how big that was, and so when Phil and I were looking at it, it just seems like way too much beach and no green. So, that top piece of band from the trail down, what are we talking, 30 feet maybe?
Yep.
The entire distance. We might even put some, it wouldn't be a straight run, it'd have a curve to it, so it was pleasing to the eye, but I think that would be a really good thing to do if we can get it within budget.
And adding trees in the area, we had a few trees in here, but obviously this is it's south facing, so it's gonna get extremely hot in there. So if you have the opportunity to create trees, so a tree canopy in there, it's gonna take a while for it to mature, but that was the vision. The contractor has been very good to work with. When we got out there and we were talking about it, we're out there brainstorming, he comments and says, geez, we should add a retaining wall in here. And of course, Bill and I are thinking about the budget, and he was so excited about it. He says, well, we might help out on that one. Remains to be seen. But he's been very good to work with. Tommy LaRiviere's pretty passionate about it.
Commissioners, if you recall, on this trail, there's 4, Phil, or 5 bulb outs for
Yeah.
picnic areas?
Yeah, I think.
And so there's a tree within that, so we're going to group the trees in relationship to that singular tree, and we will have them, so there's pockets of 4, right?
5.
5.
5 is, so the picnic area, that little blue circle right there, it has a picnic table and a single tree on it. And then the next tree was there, 150 feet away. And so in that zone between each one of those picnic areas is, Bill and I marched around out there, and Bill was pointing and brainstorming. We kind of came up with the idea of putting 5 trees in that zone in between each one of those. And again, we're working through the budget process of doing that.
Mr. Chair, Bill, what kind of trees?
I'll turn that over to Bill.
What kind would you like?
Oh, I don't have a preference.
So what we were looking
shade?
at, we need some shade trees, but we wanted to throw in some natives. So we were looking, probably a larch in there or 2, but we're looking at red oaks, some maples, something that would have a big canopy on it.
Oh,
So it would
nice.
cast a lot of shade. The nice thing throwing in a larch, even though it doesn't create much shade, it's visually stunning. In the fall, obviously, it turns really nice gold. And then even in the off-season, it's green. It's a little different than others, so I like the way those look. So anyway, we'll choose a handful of trees and what's going to drive some of that is really about availability. Right now, we're having hard times finding certain trees. Since we're still working through this, we can't order them yet. And so what's going to drive some of that decision is availability. But we'll get something that we like, that we know is hardy, and will give us what we're looking for, whether it's a red oak or if it's a pin oak or whether it's something else, we'll get what we need to give cast that shadow shade.
And how mature will the trees be that you're going to put in?
Say that again?
How mature will the trees be that you're going to put in?
We're looking at about 25 or 30 trees.
How tall will they?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see. The maples can get up to 50 or 60 in time. We might even throw in, Yeah, the oaks the same way, 50-ish.
But when you start, how big will they be?
They'll be 10 or 12.
Okay.
Yeah, and then depending, again, availability. So they're going to be like what you and I might find at Home Depot. And, but they'll be a little bit better specimen because we're getting them from the nursery. But they're about 10 or 12.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
So then, moving on to this is the ADA swim access under construction. This is the actual concrete part of it. There's a trail that comes down here. There's a landing. There's a seat wall along this edge. So if you or your family were coming down here and one of them was in a walker or wheelchair or cane, you could come down here and, you know, the grandkids might be swimming over here and grandma can walk down through the center of this, holding onto a rail and get into the water. The reason that this wall is here is it's a transfer wall, like in a pool. So if you happen to be someone that might want to go into the water with your wheelchair, park it here and then transfer to a wall, then transfer into the water, you can do that here. Or you can wheel all the way into the water, become buoyant, and then swim off from there. The log boom that protects this area didn't make it into the budget or into the award. Again, that's one of the elements on the project list that we're going to go back to Ignite because we have our contingency fund. That Ignite had a contingency that we built in there to deal with unknown conditions. We've not consumed all of that. And so Bill and I are going to go back to Ignite and say, can we use that contingency fund to fund some things like this? And we've talked that through with the mayor and we're headed back there to talk to Ignite about it. This is just another picture of it under construction. Again, the ordinary high water mark is kind of like right in this area here. There'll be 2 feet of water above the end of that, which is on the bottom side of becoming buoyant if you're in a pool or in a lake. The challenge with this is that's about as far out as we could get it, fit within the budget, meet our permit requirements. It was a trick just to accomplish this. Maybe I shouldn't call it a trick, a feat. Because there was a lot of effort that went into to make that come to pass. But we'll be interested to see how much it gets used.
And Mr. Chair, just a quick
Christie.
question. Phil, what is it about June that water will come up? When I don't even know the dates.
It should come up earlier than that. It should come up at Memorial Day.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
yeah. That's
Thank you.
usually, Avista runs it a little bit different every year, but I think that's generally their goal.
Depends on when they close the dam.
Yep.
Thank you.
You recognize some of that crew right there. That was from our site visit when we were out the other day. I threw that picture in to be able to see, so you could see in the community, you can see the shoreline stabilization here. And again, this is a very long-lived shoreline design driven by boat wakes is really the design component there. You can see that where we had to pull the slope back, weren't able to save some trees in this area, but worked hard to save some trees in that area. This will actually be the gravel walking trail in this area, and then up in here is where the riding trail, the wheeled trail will be, and this will be landscaped in between the 2 areas there. Here's another shot looking west, and you can see how the wall is constructed there. This is we'll call it the final playground design. Bill's been working with the supplier, and that's the last image we had. So that kind of demonstrates the playground area that will be there, and a little more natural style with the logs here and different character, not so many bright colors, I think is what Bill was after there. So on the summary, we're on time and on budget, and as I mentioned earlier, we intend to request Ignite allow some of the budget contingencies to be used for 4 primary things. One is the Spokane River Source Irrigation Pump Station, and that was an ad alternate that was not awarded by the city because the budget wouldn't provide for it at that time. The log booms along the beach, which I mentioned to you earlier, additional landscaping. And again, that's probably the 4th priority, and then the porta potty structures. And this is one that arrived recently in our wheelhouse. As we were out wandering the site, walking the site like we do every week, and the restroom is right here. And we got all the way down here, and Bill and I were looking at something, and Bill turns and looks back and says, "We got to fix something. We need a porta potty structure out here." And as we started studying that, And we were aware of this to some extent, but as you guys know, in the design process, when you're pushing in on a budget, you keep cutting things out, cutting things out, cutting things out. That was one of the elements that got cut out. And as we looked at it and walked the site, Bill identified 2 sites, one right here, which is in between an accessible set of swim steps there and an accessible set of swim steps there. So it's kind of right in between there. We're going to tuck it in between some trees so it's not obvious. And then the other one was down in this location here where this triangle is, which is near the dog park and the beach area here. This is the dog park log boom, which was part of that alternate that was awarded. And then this red is the boom section that we want to include because it protects the accessible swim area and the kayak launch in that area. So that is the short update, and I'm glad to take any additional questions.
Yeah, Jim?
Phil, how are we doing if water was to rise or, more rapidly than normal?
We're okay. One of the things, again, to La Riviere's credit, they've totally been focused on shoreline stabilization and building what we call the bulkheads, which are the parts of the project closest to the water. I guess I might not have a picture of one of them in here, but it's where the steps, you can kind of see them in the distance there. The piece that's closest to the water, that bulkhead is in and done, and so everything they do now comes out of the water. There's 1 or 2 rocks, landscape boulders that need to be placed near the water, and so in a pinch, we would get them in there to place those and stay out of the water. But they were really focused on that. All of us were, because we're scared of it, the uncertainty associated with it.
So Phil, what's the projected park completion date now?
It's the end of June is where we're at. We had some weather delays. Again, La Riviere's kind of said, yeah, I've been delayed, but I think I can catch up on it. So they're pretty focused on, and they've got a very large crew out here, but they're focused on meeting the original deadline. So we're shooting for June, middle of June, end of June.
Great.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I was just down there today. I couldn't figure out the building the maintenance building. I couldn't figure out if that was the design that we looked at before that you drafted, or is that going to be the restroom area that will have the big design?
Both of them are similar.
Okay.
And so
Do you have any pictures of those?
I don't have the pictures of I'm sorry, I should have
That's all
thrown
right.
those in. But that design that you see with that elevated clear story structure
Yeah.
there is similar to what the restroom building will look like right in this area here.
Okay.
The restroom building is made out of reinforced concrete. It has the irrigation pump station in it. And without getting into the details, because that wasn't awarded yet, we've been holding up La Riviere a little bit on finishing that part of the project. But now we're off and running and working on that. The pump station is quite a facility because it's drawn water out of the river, and it's set up so it's easily maintainable by Bill, and it sits in the mechanical room in there. But it should look very similar to that structure right there.
Okay, great.
The shop building, though, is siding and not concrete.
Correct. Yep.
So
Yep.
the concrete piece is what I think you saw where we had the molding that looked like wood texturing. So that'll be the restroom facility. But the shop will just be or a metal siding.
But the restroom facility will have the same upper design?
Yes.
Oh, that'll look really
Yes.
nice. Great, thank you.
You can, and in this same picture, you can see remember the access to the park will be through Suzanne. And Suzanne comes down here, and you can kind of see the alignment of it. It comes to here, and then there's an intersection, and you can turn, you won't be able to now, but in the future, you'll be able to turn right on a road here or turn left into the parking lot, and the parking lot sits down into here. And remember, it's a very large parking lot. It's like 122 spaces. So it has a tremendous amount of capacity in it.
Well, I think what you're creating here is a destination park, and it's located geographically in a fairly underserved portion of Coeur d'Alene with the multifamily housing and things that have been developed in the area. So I don't think you've overestimated
Yeah.
the parking.
And with, as you mentioned, Chairman Cranston, with the trails that connect in this area, it becomes easily accessible by walkers and bikers and whatnot.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Just a question. We were going to, I think, see if we could put a piece of sawmill memorabilia in terms of equipment somewhere on site.
Yes,
Where was
we
that
have
going to
that
be?
in our design. Go ahead, Phil.
Chairman, or Commissioner McDowell, it sits right here. There's actually two pieces of it, and both of them are from the mill.
Right.
Yes, and so we've replicated them on the plinth blocks, so they'll actually be set up on a plinth block. And one of them sits, the playground, to orient you, the playground is there, the restroom is there. You can obviously see the parking lot in here. This is the food truck area. And then as you come out and you come around it, they're sitting right in that area. So a pretty prominent feature in there.
Cool.
Mr. Chair, one more, if I may. Actually, for Bill, that's going to be really cool to have that there, but I'm wondering if you've given any thought to approaching the Arts Commission in the future about other things down on the property.
I don't understand the question, I'm sorry.
The Arts Commission, if we would approach them with maybe a major art piece project, aside from the mill.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I was just trying to think through what you're asking. So there are many sites on this park that could accommodate art, absolutely. And so even some of these cutouts, I thought possibly along that beach might do that. We've talked about possibly the swinging benches that we've done here at McEwen, maybe there. So the Arts Commission will, and Troy Tymason will ask me from time to time when we acquire art, do you have a place for art? And as you walk through our parks, you know we have lots of art in our parks. So yes, we can accommodate all kinds of stuff.
Great, thank you.
Chairman Gratz, I might want to add one thing. When we were finishing up Memorial, you might recall that as we got close to the end of that, Bill and I, we kind of went through the park with the landscape architect, identifying where there were some good places to put art, and at the end of it, literally produced a map that said, you know, here's some spots that we think would be good for art, which it gave Bill an opportunity to walk through it with the park designers to make sure we weren't, I don't want to say treading on the design of the park, but putting at least his input on the design. I think, and some of that you just can't do at this stage when you're looking at a plan view. As you guys know, having been out there, once you get out there, the grandness of it really hits you, and you find the appropriate places to put swinging benches and whatnot. And I think that might be another one of the things that, as we go through, Bill can make some suggestions. We can go do a walkthrough out there with the commission, and you guys can at least put your, hey, here's where we would kind of focus where we think the art is appropriate. And I know it's a give and take with the Arts Commission, but I think that was a valuable exercise on Memorial, because it gave us opportunity to think before the last minute being asked, where should we put it?
Great.
Anything else for Phil or Bill?
Yeah, just great work.
Yep.
Thank
Nice
you.
to
Very
see it
nice.
progressing so well.
Yeah,
Getting excited.
yeah,
Yeah.
June will come quickly.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Next, we have our one action item tonight regarding the ice rink. Bill, I'll go ahead and read the staff report in, and then if there's anything you'd like to add or introduce our guests and pick it up from there. The subject is the Coeur d'Alene on Ice agreement. The decision tonight, should the council approve a 5-year renewable agreement with Coeur d'Alene on Ice to create and operate a seasonal ice skating rink in McEwen Park. For years, staff has looked for a consistent winter activity in the downtown core that would promote winter park use and increase downtown activity. Staff believes this proposal will do just that. Over a year ago, we were approached by Jerome and Andrea Murray, doing business as Coeur d'Alene on Ice, about their business model that they have done successfully in Modesto, California. We talked through some locations and options and believe the grass area in front of the Vista Pavilion would serve as the best location for this new endeavor. Coeur d'Alene on Ice will pay the City of Coeur d'Alene Parks Department $6,000 per season with CPI increases for 5 years, with the option of an extension for 5 more years starting at $10,000 per season with incremental yearly increases shown within the agreement. Coeur d'Alene on Ice will pay for all power costs associated with the ice rink. All revenue generated from the agreement will be placed in the park's capital improvement fund. The area of the park where the rink would be located is not currently being used in the winter months, so this activity would not displace any events. In fact, it is a good use of the off-season space. The season set up for the rink would start in mid-October and run through mid-January for the breakdown. Park staff already performs snow removal in the winter months for this park's sidewalks and trails, so the sidewalks will be cleared for patrons of the rink. Ice rink staff will assist with some snow removal as well. The staff of Coeur d'Alene on Ice will help with the cleaning of the restroom throughout the day and after hours. Coeur d'Alene on Ice will provide security for the facility when they are closed. Coeur d'Alene on Ice will cover all costs of the erection and maintenance of the ice rink and surrounding area and will restore the area of the park used to as good or better condition at the end of each season. Coeur d'Alene on Ice will charge users and operate limited concessions and will be solely responsible for advertising and promotion. Again, the decision or recommendation tonight will be whether the commission should recommend council approve the 5-year renewable agreement with Coeur d'Alene on Ice.
Well, thank you, Chairman. So, absolutely right. It was a little over a year ago that Jerome Murray came to us and we talked about an ice rink. And we talked about some stuff, and Jerome kind of went dark on us for a little while. And Jeff Erickson, our superintendent, came to me and said, whatever happened to that guy with the ice rink? And I kid you not, within that week, Jerome reached out to me. And in the meantime, Jeff Erickson we initially talked with Jerome about doing this out on the plaza. And the plaza didn't really fit what he's used to. It was too narrow and not quite wide enough. And he said, oh, it might work, it might not. But in the meantime, Jeff had been thinking through it a little bit. And then he came to me and proposed that we put it out, here's the pavilion, out in that grass. And then Jerome, we met with him, and he went out there and said, you know, I really like this a lot. There's a problem with the elevation a little bit. And so we talked through that some. And instead of having him come in with sand and remove that every year, again, it was Jeff's idea that we would just use sandy loam and create a platform that would be pretty much ready for Jerome every season if we can come to an agreement. And so we thought that would be really a good idea. And the difference from the elevation, you won't see it. We'll feather that out in a way. It'll just be kind of a little rise, but it'll be a flat spot that won't impede the use of any events at all. It's just that when Coeur d'Alene on Ice shows up for their season's use, it's already ready. You may have to adjust it a little bit with some sand, but we can take care of that. We would, at the end of this season, if we get this done, we would just get it ready for the spring by reseeding it using Mike Anderson's magic dirt, and we can make anything grow with his stuff from the compost facility and then have it ready for next year. And we think it would be really flawless for their setup. And here's a kind of a better bird's eye view of really in real time what it looks like here. And that's the idea. We are currently, right now, over here, we're adding some new power sources for concerts in the park and also for this. So we are working on that right now and have this up and running before the concert series in McEwen starts and well in advance of the Murrays' need to have power there. And then his model in Modesto, sorry, that's another town in California. This is, we pulled this off Modesto on Ice, and I looked at a bunch of photos, and it seems like folks are having a great time. This is kind of the idea what it's going to look like. He embeds lighting into the ice. You can have parties if you like. And here's something that he's going to do under the pavilion. We're talking to the building department and our fire department about all the elements that they'd like to do. So everybody's engaged. We had met with them a few weeks ago, fire, police, and building. Police, they love it. Building likes it. They're working with Ted right now about how they can get this stuff done. And fire's okay with what we're proposing, but they want to be still involved with the setup and that sort of thing. And this is the part of the program that I really am excited about. Andrea is a special needs teacher, and they reach out to this portion of their community. They'll do the same thing here. So Disability Action Center, we're going to have them engage with this because they set up an opportunity for folks that maybe not as fortunate as us to have full use of our limbs, to have something for this portion of our community. So I was really excited about that piece. And here's something that I thought was kind of interesting. They were selling s'mores in a box, so you could make your own s'mores and go over to the fire pit and have graham crackers and melt your marshmallows in chocolate. That being said, I've got the Murrays here to answer any of your questions tonight, and any questions that I can answer, let me have them.
Yeah, Mike?
Yeah, Bill, just one thing in your conversation, sounded like we were anticipating we're gonna kill the grass through this use and then replant it each year?
Correct.
Is that the idea?
Right. Yeah, so what will happen is it'll get matted down a little bit, so the root on that is going to get crushed, and what doesn't rebound will just reseed, and we can just turn that around in a very short time.
Okay. So it'd be ready for early summer, spring?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because they're going to button it up in the middle of January. As soon as the weather breaks and we get temperatures that are nice and we can germinate at 40 degrees, we'll put it down and have it go.
Two questions.
Jim.
Is there a tent over this?
Yes. As you look here above it, you can see, yeah. So the outer, see, you've got, it'll bring folks in because these windows are here. This is the rink itself. There's the wall, and that's the roof.
And then skate rentals, I'm sure?
Yep, included.
Mr. Chair.
Christie?
Bill, maybe you could talk a little bit about the security that's normally provided.
Well, what they've done in the past is at off-season, they have somebody here. And so there's security firms that would provide that subcontracting for them. And we had Lee Brainerd there talking about that, and he's okay with what we're proposing.
It looks like a lot of fun.
It does. Even for people like you and I, we have training wheels.
Hey,
So,
talk about yourself.
yeah.
No, you were spot on.
So anyway, the Murrays are here to answer any
I
questions.
guess
that you
I'd
might
offer
like
to
to-
Murray's, is there anything you would like to add to what's been presented so far?
First of all, thank you, Chairman and Commissioners, and that was a nice presentation, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, no, this is a project we're very excited about here. Andrew and I have lived here for 3 years now, and
We're returning here.
yes. But to see what we did the ice rink in Modesto, California. We also did one in Salem, Oregon, and both communities, what it brought to normally a public space that was not used at all during the winter became the hot spot for winter months during the holidays. And there's just something about ice rink and holidays, just the quintessential holiday fun, and it doesn't exclude any part of the demographic. You know, it's grandparents and grandkids and families and teenagers, everybody. There's not a downside to it that we found yet, so, but we'd be glad to answer any questions.
Great. Jenny first? Yeah.
Thank you. So you had the two prior ones. Are they in operation still?
So we're in the process of selling the Modesto on Ice rink, and we sold Salem on Ice to my previous partner. So, and they are no longer, Troy did not continue that after the second year in Salem. So not because of the market, but just it wasn't his cup of tea. It's a lot of work.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Jim?
Would you offer hockey leagues and more than just skating, or is it just all open to the public, or?
This is a lot more about a public skate. We have a hockey rink in town, and what we found in Modesto, even though there wasn't a hockey rink right local, there was within about 40 minutes. And it was a place where it created a lot of interest that then fed into new little hockey players. And after being open our 5th season, we got to hire some of those hockey players, and So we see this like really working together with the Frontier, and maybe even use them for a Learn to Skate program, so.
Looks like a lot of fun.
Anything else? Jerome, Andrea, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Exciting proposal. Well, what would be the pleasure of the commission?
We need a motion on that, sir?
We do.
I can't find it.
Well, I would make a motion that the council should approve the 5-year renewable agreement with the city of Coeur d'Alene on ice.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Go ahead.
Commissioner Lean has made the motion to recommend council approve the 5-year renewable agreement with Coeur d'Alene on ice, seconded by Commissioner McDowell. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion is unanimous, Bill. I guess, does this now forward on to general services?
That's correct, and then on the council.
Okay. When would be the date?
I
that
don't
would
have a
be on
calendar in
general
front of me, but
services
it'll be
agenda?
within, see, next week for general services, and then the week after that for council.
Okay. Very good. Well, we look forward to it.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah.
It does. It's like fun.
Okay, last chance for any announcements or comments before I make the last couple of meeting announcements for the evening. Okay.
All good.
The Park and Rec Commission's next regular workshop will be Tuesday, April 7th, 11:30 a.m. at Crusoe's Deli here in Coeur d'Alene. And then the regular Park and Recreation Commission meeting would be held April 20th, 5:30, right here in the library community room. And so with that, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
second? Motion's been made by Commissioner Tate and seconded by Commissioner Wood to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
All right.